Hi, my name is Clay, and this is the Enneagram Prison Project podcast. In this episode, I sit down with two very special guests, Mike and Susanne from Minnesota. You may recognize Susanne. She is an EPP guide. She has been on previous episodes of the podcast, and she likes to make special appearances while recording episodes with other people on the podcast. It's kind of a running joke that we have. And her husband, Mike, happened to be in Southern California earlier this year when we were programming in San Diego. They were able to attend graduation that day, and this was also Mike's first time going into prison. So we talked about that, and as per usual, just kind of let the conversation naturally go wherever it wanted to go. A quick side note, by the way, just so you know, at the very beginning of this, you will hear from Executive Director of Enneagram Prison Project, Rick Olesic, and he called while we were checking levels and getting all the mic stuff and the tech side of things set up to record this podcast. He called my phone, and I thought, hey, why not just say hi to him and chat with him? And I think it's fun. It's real quick. It's real brief, so it doesn't go on for too long. And I thought it would be a fun place to start. So I asked him if we could use it. He said, yes, of course. And so that's where we're going to start with this episode, and I hope you enjoy it. We're glad you're here. Thanks for listening. This is the Enneagram Prison Project podcast.
Mike, have you been in prison before?
Nope, that was my very first time.
Wow.
But, you know, the question came even on the drive there, but I feel like I've been there many times, just sitting with Susanne and just in the house during all of her teaching. So I've that experience of walking through the yard and going through the sally port and all of that. There was not even any anxiety. I was even worried about it. And I have, part of maybe we'll talk about the podcast is I've changed so much as a young kid going, you know, prisons are for punishment. And if you do the time, do the crime. But, you know, this empathy of our own challenges, and we're all human. And in this through the stories, I mean, Susanne totally does HIPAA compliance with the bios. But I get the gist of the bios of just, I would be in their same boat, or I would have duplicated the same experience. So,
right. Exactly.
The empathy is, I mean, today it was just, wow, it just validated. I mean, all these guys would be the best to hang out with, and you know, they're stuck for a while. So,
yeah, for a long while.
Yes.
You're getting all the good podcasts before I do, Rick.
All right, sorry.
Oh, now Suzanne's getting, hold on.
Hey.
Hi, Suzanne. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Rick, if you got an hour to burn, we can just do the whole, all four of us can do the podcast together.
No, thank you.
That's funny.
All right, we'll talk more later.
Okie dokie.
All right.
See you later.
Bye, Suzanne. Bye,
Goodbye,
Mike.
Rick.
Goodbye.
See you tomorrow. Bye.
See ya.
All right. My name is Susanne. I usually jump in on a podcast and kind of ruin the moment for someone else. But tonight, it's me starting out. I am a guide with EPP, and I help with some faculty things. And I had the pleasure to go on vacation. And part of that included joining the graduating class at RJD, and my partner in life is with us, and I've been with EPP since 2017. So I just thought this is an amazing opportunity to have someone important into my life come and share the moment and see what this EPP magic is all about.
And if you think it's relevant to share, what is your Enneagram type?
My Enneagram type is 4.
Okie dokie.
Hello, my name is Mike. I am Suzanne's husband. And Suzanne's Enneagram journey has been really part of my Enneagram journey. If she came on board, say, the EPP environment in 2017, I was right there through her decision and her experiences of meeting everyone and starting her journey with that, because I had been involved with the Enneagram prior to classes. And in Minnesota, we have a chapter, and was drug into there. But I think I went willingly. I think that Enneagram is very fascinating. It's part of our journey in life. And Susanne had a background with Carolyn Mesa's archetypes, which very similar in nature of why people do things the way they do. And a lot of it was based, say, maybe on a women's perspective. But that was very complicated. And then there's got to be an easier way to understand all of this. And the Enneagram really kind of flowed for me as a nice journey. And it made sense of we're these 9 types and we're all part of it, but we all have tendencies. And being my background, I'll just share as I am a telecommunications network engineer, had been my career. So I can talk in terms of operating systems. So I was very fascinated with the human operating system. And to me, this is a way to say, how can I understand my operating system? Because it's the way I'm wired. It's the way I do things. So for me, it was just a natural element. So when Susanne got involved with EPP, I am guilty of my voyeurism of just an observation. I am a 5.
Yeah.
So her basically, I've heard her teach classes. I've heard her do her meetings. And not so much just an eavesdrop, but it's just fascinating, just all the discussions, the people she's met, the countries she's been to. And then I love it when she travels because then I can travel too, kind of meet her somewhere. But so that's been my journey. And that's what's got us here today.
And you have a perspective, Mike, that I would say most, but actually all of us don't have, because we're very familiar with Susanne. We see her on the screens. We see her in person. Like a lot of us know that side. And I think only you might know exactly how much work she puts into EPP. And you care to tell, what's a typical day look like from your vantage point watching Susanne?
I love
what I would guess is sun up to sundown. It's what it feels like, and maybe even more than that. Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I'm going to be guilty because I'm an enabler. From an fact point, I really believe in the mantra or the mission of the Enneagram Prison Project. So I'm actually rooting for the success of the program. I see the valuable work it's done. I see the valuable work the Enneagram's done for our relationship. I'm a head type, and I do live in my head. And she's definitely being a 4, the heart type, and it's always there. But Susanne, just to answer your original question of what's a day-to-day with it, is we'll start up and she'll do some groundings, which is very appropriate for the Enneagram Project environment. And then there'll be a meeting or two for an hour or two. And then we'll hook up for maybe a quick boiled egg or a breakfast or a cup of coffee as she's running to a noon meeting, noon to 2. And then we'll have a half-hour discussion of, now, if that's Egyptian time, what time is it in Minnesota? And help do the time modules, because that's a big challenge.
How often is it Minnesota time? Let's be honest. Not very often.
Yeah,
it's usually either West Coast or Australia or something like that.
So the afternoon goes to that, and then we have some meetings at night. But she loves it, and I support that. So, but it's a way to stay connected with humanity. Right now, I'm working from home. We don't get out much, but I feel connected to the world through just her workings. And
it's nice. I mean, speaking of getting out much, I mean, I haven't said this yet. I should probably set the table and say that we're in Southern California in San Diego. And I know why I'm here. I'm here to talk about RJ Donovan. We went to prison 2 weeks ago and again this week. And what the hell are y'all doing in town? Because you're not here in a professional, whatever you want to call it. You're not here to work, right?
It's vacation.
Yeah.
And so, we just needed a break. We live in Minnesota. It's a little chilly there, a lot more snow there than here. Mm-hmm. And so we thought we'd come and enjoy the beach. And, then I'd say, hey, Dana, I want to work a little bit on some curriculum. And then it was 4 hours later and it's like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
But you bring your love wherever you go. And Laura lives here, and I knew this class was graduating, and she's like, do you want to come into graduation? I'm like, yes, that is like the highlight of the vacation, and to be able to bring Mike in. Because I don't know that most of our people that support us in our lives get to see the inside of really what we do. We can talk about it afterwards, and to sit in the room today, just for me, is always humbling and gives me faith for humanity and potential. Like, we all have potential, and to have my partner to get to sit in the room with the graduates and hear their retrospective on what they experienced is magic.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to know a lot about your experience today and what you thought. And I'm looking at a piece of paper. I want to know what's on the paper too, the notes that you have from today. But to be honest, more than anything, I want to know, Mike, this was your first time going into prison, right?
Correct.
And you've heard about it. You said you've had this, you felt like you've been there even without being there and all that stuff, but walking through the gates. And for those who've never been there, there's a few gates that you walk through. First of all, getting cleared to get in is a pain in the ass in the first place. So just make no mistake, or at least it is for ex-cons. I don't know about for those who have never been to prison, or at least I'm assuming you've never been to prison. I don't know.
I was disappointed we didn't get searched on the way through.
You wanted to pat down.
Yes, I was prepared for that.
I know the secret on that, by the way. If you want to get patted down literally anywhere, at the airport tomorrow, if you want TSA to check extra thoroughly, I know how to make that happen. Matter of fact, you can borrow my prison ID from when I was in Texas prisons. I have that. I always keep that. Yeah, have you ever seen that?
No.
Yeah, there you go. I keep that with my passport. And my passport obviously being right here. It
says Texas offender, Clay Tumey.
Yep.
This is your ID?
That was my ID in prison. That is the I can travel with that. I could take that through TSA and that would be acceptable.
Who knew?
Explain how handsome that fellow is in that picture right there. Good grief.
Incredible. Makeover 101.
Hey, there's a reason that this is a podcast and not a video cast. So disappointed that you didn't get the pat down. I get that. Makes sense. We walked through a few gates and then we're walking through the yard. Walk me through your experience today, first time being in prison.
Well, I expected there'd be the log jam just entering through and the time and them staring at your ID and that. So that's just like a TSA experience. But that is a good question you asked, because as soon as the security door opened and we got out to the yard, I didn't know how I'd react to that. But it was a very expansive yard. So there was people spread out all over. So as we begin the walk to the classroom and to that section, I was looking around, but it seemed like a very friendly place. I never felt any. I usually can feel. I am a head type, but I do have some guttural feeling or instincts when you're in an environment that feels dark or whatever. But I didn't feel that, and I think that was mostly to the expansiveness of RJD's environment versus if I was in a really busy yard. Right. But that, after walking through there and going, it's pretty calm. And then once we got to the building, then it seemed like a very relaxed environment. So from there, it was just a matter of just meeting the students and going from there.
And so, and by the building, the mental health building is where we held classes this week and a couple weeks ago as well. It's where we hold most of our classes, actually. And we go in there, we set the chairs up, we do our thing, and then we wait for the folks to come in. What did you experience, if anything, when we say residents, we say participants, to the folks who don't know, we're talking about people who are locked up, inmates. What was the experience of having them just gradually come in and introduce themselves and sit down and stuff like that?
Well, I was excited to meet them, and like I said, I've had a physical change in my attitude. I would have, if this would have happened 5 years ago, Susanne just joined EPP and was like, go with her to a yard or a prison and experience that, I would really have had high anxiety and I would have freaked out. But again, I've heard so many stories of successful classes and people with background in violent past now, how this has changed their life. So it's really changed the color of my rose-colored glasses, or to where they either open them up or darken them up. But I've really changed my view to really be empathetic to people, and they're just people that have the same journeys and issues that I have, and so I'm just rooting for them just to find peace. Because again, I'll talk back to a common thing that is this biography that a lot of these classes have, and you write your childhood, and it's just and I had what we called a very peaceful middle class southern Minnesota, but there was still conflict in my family. There was still these angst and there was still these demons that I've been chasing all my life, and it affected me greatly. So for some reason, I just feel very empathetic and was just excited to meet them, and they met my expectations. They were tall, short, big, and loud and quiet. There was just a really mix of any normal group that you'd come across.
So the stereotypical prison inmate, big ass tough guy that you'd be scared of, does that hold true or not so much?
Today it was the farthest from that vision of big scary. There was a lot of vulnerability, people talking about their vulnerability. Yeah. And that immediately lowers any defenses or any predispositions.
You said a phrase earlier. It's one of my all-time, and you're quoting past people and all this stuff. So it wasn't your phrase, but it's a phrase that's one of my all-time biggest triggers, I think. And the way that I hear it most often is, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. What does that phrase mean to you now versus what it might have meant in the past?
I will repeat my bias growing up as a kid is that right, there's wrong. If you do something, a crime, whether it's nonviolent or violent, is you've done it, and you need to be punished or do the time. Yeah. And that was, I mean, that was kind of just, there's right and there's wrong. It's black and it's white. But over time, and my mom was very much a loving, I mean, I'll use the term liberal, but very lightened in that realm. Was just, well, people have issues, for society may cause problems, or the neighborhood may cause that. It's like, oh, okay. I mean, I really didn't think about it until I started getting involved in the environment of the Enneagram Prison Project and start doing my own work. And when you start looking at, wow, I mean, we are all flawed and we are all beautiful at the same time. So it's enabled me to just really change my mindset. There is things that you definitely need that are right and wrong. There's definitely things that need to be time spent, but you know, I've gone away from just anything and everything to where if that's nonviolent or drug related, it just changed me, who I'm a pretty conservative person, just to really, again, the term empathy, not just sympathy, like, it's too bad, so sad, but it was really like, wow, I mean, I could really, if I was in their situation, or if I had a rough childhood where people didn't care about me, or how would I react? And I would probably have reacted pretty much what they've all done, with a lot of pain. And the more you've learned that if you're in pain, you'll treat other people in pain. So just the empathy would be the biggest. That just changed my world of the way to look at people. It's the getting back to Susanne and my relationship of just the Enneagram itself. There are just ways we're wired and we're different. So I can't judge somebody just on their behavior. It's really going that extra mile and understanding the whys. That does matter.
I wrote a paper when I was, I think, 15, maybe 16. It was one of my years in the 9th grade. They all kind of run together. There's a few of them there. I wrote a paper about crime and what we should do with criminals. And in my mid-teenage brain, I literally said, if you can't follow the rules out here, and if you can't learn how to function the way everybody else does, I was pretty severe with my opinions on that. And I thought that not only should people go away, but it was like California has the 3 strikes you're out. I was more of a 1 striker. Like, if you can't be out here, then farewell. You don't get to come back. And it's so bizarre, and bizarre is too nice. It's embarrassing, honestly, to read like the way that I used to think about things, because it's so wrong, first of all. And it's just kind of silly. Like the lack of the way I say it, the lack of give a shit about other people that I had. And that's a bummer. It's a bummer. I'm glad I'm not like that now. It's ironic that I became the person that I was writing about, and how I didn't deserve to be around and all that stuff, which is my own junk that I had to work through. So I don't know. What are you thinking about over there?
I just was listening to Mike, and when we got to the Sallyport and we're moving through, what is it? Like, when we got in the yard, I just feel relaxation within myself. And it's like, oh, all right, here we are. And I'm so excited to get in the room and hear like the magic, like hear the transformation. How did this program affect these individuals? And knowing that Laura was running this class, I know her heart and how she holds this program, and to get to sit and witness her do her magic, do her work, and hear from the students. I didn't forget that you were there, Mike, but
I was going to ask.
I sort of was like walking way ahead, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's with, come on, let's go. Come on, get up here. And then getting in the classroom too, when the students were coming in the room, I was shaking their hands. And I mean, they allowed us to enter into their last day of their course. Yeah. That's sacred space. And that takes, I don't know, a beautiful part of humanity to let people come into your space and then be vulnerable with us being in the room too. So just shaking them and shaking their hands and thanking them for letting us be in the room with them. And I was like, oh yeah, Mike is here. Like, where is he? Where is he sitting? What's he doing? Is he, backed up against the wall? Is he sitting in his chair? Where is he? So I can lose myself in what I have seen and had the privilege to be part of in these years with EPP. And there it all was laid out in front of us. And to have both you, Clay, and Alex in the room for the men, I mean, that is the foundation of what Enneagram Prison Project is built on, is we are all human. We do good things, bad things, ugly things, beautiful things, and it's all welcomed, and we can heal. And they shared that in the most beautiful ways. So I just felt really humbled and privileged to get to be part of that.
There were 5 of us walking in together. You and Laura were together, and then Alex, Mike, and I were a little back, walking a little slower. And I had to fight the urge, because I want to tell you, like, oh, look at this mural, look at this painting, look at this thing that you probably didn't expect, and there's, the dog over here, and the or the soccer ball, or all this. And I did it a couple times, but for the most part, I'm thinking, Clay, just shut the fuck up, because I know in my shoes, that's what I don't want somebody. I want to take it in myself, and so I hope I did that somewhat well. And even in the class with you talk about the sacred space and them allowing us in, and we've been there for all their classes, so I'm already there, but. Tell me if this is accurate, because the way that I experienced today with 2 new faces in the room is it didn't so much seem like they permitted you or allowed you or anything like that, but it was like a welcoming, like, hey, cool, come on in. Do you feel that, or did you feel that?
I think that comes with, like when I'm in that space, I'm type 4 withdrawal type. Mm-hmm. So I would have been happy just sat in a chair and pushed back.
Yeah.
And I don't want to miss the juice. Yeah. I want to be part of the healing. I want to weigh in and hear what they have to say, make their space stay as safe as it was before, be part of that container. And so I'm sitting and listening to fellow type 4s talk in the class, and I could finish their sentence. I can hear what's coming next out of them. And that's magic. That's amazing that this tool works that way.
Yeah. And to describe to the listener, the room size, I would say, is roughly like 10 feet by 20 feet, maybe 15, 20 feet. And so there's 20, maybe 21 or 22 of us in there, and our chairs are arranged in the circle to outline the perimeter of the room. So we're sitting shoulder to shoulder. There's there's no front of the room. There's no back of the room. We're sitting next to each other. And the way that we set the seats up, it's not the 5 of us sitting in together. We're just kind of randomly sitting out to really to demonstrate that we are equal. We're all together. And so you're literally sitting shoulder to shoulder with folks doing time that you've never met before.
Right. And coming into the class, one of the first things we do is ask everyone to ground ourselves and close your eyes. Okay, come on into a room of prisoners that you don't know, you've never met. And now close your eyes. Mm-hmm. And both times when we did our grounding at the beginning and then back after our break, both men on my side, sitting to the left and to the right of me, we were breathing in unison. Like, we're that close together. Our shoulders were breathing in and out, touching just lightly.
Yeah.
And we're all in this human soup together. And that's beautiful. Doesn't matter what we did one time in our life or 2 or 3 times in our life that got us in that room. It's that, do you want to sit down and wake up to who we are, to who we can be, whether that can be day is with a life sentence or maybe not. I know the men were so excited to share with us that 2 of the gentlemen that had been in previous classes had their life sentences commuted and they are out.
Yeah.
They're free.
Yeah.
And I hope
we could have had them over here, actually.
There you go. Who knew?
Thought to find out where they are.
And what a beautiful celebration, because everyone in the room could be my neighbor. And if they are, and they're taking time to be out of society, how can we help that be a moment in time of learning instead of sitting and what? No, grow, wake up, learn. We're we all have that potential.
I'm going to brag on you right now because when you said that word, neighbor, it reminded me of something you said today that was just one of the coolest damn things I've ever heard when you were given a bit of towards the end of the day, the graduation, all that stuff. And I don't remember all of what you said, but what I definitely remember is you saying is that I hope you can be my neighbor one day. And I thought, and it's so believable. I 100% believe that you meant that, not just as a figure of speech, but that you'd be down for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. With the Enneagram, we're all in a prison of our own making. You hear it all the time when you're around EPP people, and it is so true. And one of the students today was sharing how, I've been through really hard times, and this class really has woken me up to see that I have something to offer, and each one in their own way did share that from their own type structure. And the chief of mental health was in the room. Other people were in the room, and I saw tears in her eyes as the men came up and, had their hands. They were, shook their hands, and Laura shared her beautiful appreciation for what that person brought into the classroom. She had
something to say about every single person. And I think that might have been what brought tears, and we'll leave names out, but the chief of mental health there, that's got to be unusual to see a program come in and for somebody like Laura to hand out certificates and give very specific individual feedback, gratitude, appreciation, and all that. And it was not cookie cutter. It was specific to that person's soul. And I didn't see the chief of mental health tearing up. I wasn't in the right position for it. But was that when she was doing that? Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
she hears the worst of the worst. Like the stories of those dudes doing time there. She's heard some pretty nasty stuff. And so for something like that to move her, pretty gnarly. That
speaks to the work, and it speaks to how EPP, we come in to share a program, but we're guides. We're not teachers. Right. We're guiding. We're on the path together, and it's today, tomorrow, always. Mike introduced me and said, "What did you say, hon?"
No, that one we'll just leave on the cutting table there.
Seriously.
If I may interject, my experience when I'm walking in the room and it's just, are they going to have glassy eyed? Am I going to be treated like an outsider, or what right do you have to be in our space?
Yeah.
And I know this is intimate space. This is a holding tank of everyone, talking all week and sharing their experiences, but they all smiled at me, tall, big, short, and they're all welcoming. And anyone sitting next to me, we exchanged names and hello. And I felt very, very welcoming. Then Alex, the co-guide here of the class, along with Clay, was so kind to do the grounding, thinking of frozen ice, because I had met Alex a few years ago and invited him to come back.
Ice fishing.
And do some ice fishing with them to drill a hole and pull some fish out. So that was thank you, Alex, for that. If you listen to this, that meant a lot to me. So from there on, I was in a happy place among people that I felt comfortable with.
Pretty easy to forget you're in prison, isn't it?
Yes. And it was just another class, another Enneagram sharing of ideas and talking types. But I did have a chance to say it impacted my Susanne and myself's relationship, being husband and wife. If you have somebody do things or do something irritating, you may think, oh, they're just doing that to be mean to you. I use the term maybe asshole.
Yeah.
You can blank that out. But they could get real. It's a good real term or whatever, but you can get upset with people if you really don't understand their motive. They could be trying something really kind to you. And this is a far-fetched, but it's just, again, why would I love being in the environment, and I love the Enneagram prison work, is just, I think in Frankl's book of Man's Search for Meaning, but he talked about a guard that kept putting beetles in a guy's throat, shoving it down his throat, and the intent there was to keep him alive. It wasn't to persecute him. So again, it's the intent. So the Enneagram has helped me in our marriage just to say, yeah, it came from her heart. So, that's pretty authentic to begin with, but it's not aimed at me. It's her type. And as my journey is to be very loving and accepting that, and say, and we've talked about that, breathe and what's going on with you, dear, and to help that. But so to make a long story short is, I probably said too many things on that opening line or whatever.
I
But
thought it was perfect. Man. It's so easy to. I mean, we've hung out. I've stayed at your house. I mean, we've met, and I've literally stayed at your house. So I already know you. But even if I didn't, that introduction, you're so damn likable already. And in that moment, it's even more so. And by the way, in case this didn't come across clearly, the entire room erupted in laughter when you said that, and it was, and you didn't really back down on it either. Like it was, there were some funny comments made, but I loved it. I wish I was recording. They don't let me take mics on the inside.
And so I will just share exactly what was said, so it's on the record.
uh-oh.
Should I get the beep button ready?
He said
No.
Something along the lines of, I'm thinking something endearing is going to come out here.
Kind of was, honestly.
Kind of was. From the standpoint of Susanne and I have, been using the Enneagram. We've been together for many years. And, sometimes she can come across as an asshole. And that's when the laughing started. But
that's just who she is.
No, that she doesn't mean that.
Yeah.
And then I gave him the look,
Yeah.
and he said, and it will be a cold ride home
Yep.
after this.
Yeah.
But it will not be. That's honest.
Anything for a laugh.
That's
It
honesty.
definitely got the laugh. And those moments are so appropriate and so needed, in my opinion, at least. I thought it was great. We got to see a couple panels today. There was a little bit left in the going through the types, and I think type 6 and type 7 were left for today.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to see a panel on the inside, which most folks don't ever get to see. And there's a lot of stuff that happens on Zoom. There's a lot of stuff with the ambassadors, all that stuff. And I know you've probably seen a few panels, maybe even done a few panels on the inside.
Yes.
But Mike, I'm actually curious, what was it like watching a panel of 6s or 7s, like answer questions about their type and how it relates to their childhood and all that stuff? What was that experience like, if anything?
As I watched the 6 and the 7 panel, but I've actually been through panels before from an observer when I spent a year where every month we'd go through one type and then sit on a long panel with that. So I was experienced with the background. I spent most of my time actually because I liked the guys that were part of the group, and I was rooting for them to identify. In full disclosure, I could find someone that was in doubt of their type and their confidence to speak of their true feelings. But you're hoping that they can resonate and get that out. So I was I was just from a cheering it on because I was rooting for them that they found their home or in their type. And one thing I would have loved to have been on a 5 panel because it is fun to be around people that are your type and to hear about it. You just need to hear that once in a while that you're not alone out there. So it would have been fun to be with a couple 5s along with Clay is to be on a panel someday with that.
Yeah.
But I think panels are awesome. I mean, that's truly where you get to think. That's really puts it in action behaviors and the environments that you're in and how you react to that. Yeah. Especially with the 7 was a very amazing discussion today.
Yeah.
And one of the participants really took that forum and was able to really express themselves. And I think that was very therapeutic for that person.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I don't mind speaking about a little bit more specifically. One of the staffer who was in the room with us, we had a staffer, and they were kind of there to help, like with the technical side of things and with videos, and if we needed anything, they could help us. But the first day of class, that staffer didn't decide. They're invited to be a part of the class. Like if you're here, you can be in the class. And they said, well, I don't want to intrude on the residents' experience, so leave it up to the residents to decide that. And I think that the staffer was hoping that they would say, no, we don't want you, so that person could sit out. Mm-hmm. And the opposite happened.
Yes, it
They were
did.
like, oh, hell yeah. And because, like you say, it's a welcoming environment more than I could really describe. You just have to experience it really to know how welcoming that room is.
Because that's not normal.
True.
Anywhere on
True
panels.
that.
Yeah. And I will say that Sterling Prison does have staff that has taken their 2 first classes that it was lucky to be part of.
Yeah.
And the men would share that having learned the Enneagram, they now don't see the ROs and COs and people on staff as the assholes that just tell them what to do and where to go do it.
Right.
But that they are people.
Right.
And so when it was COVID and there was lockdown and staff were coming in to have to work a 12-hour shift and then being told at the end of their 12-hour shift, now you're on a 16-hour shift.
Ew.
And the students were sharing, I felt horrible for them that their family was expecting them to be home after 12 hours and now they're there for 16 hours. That's the leveling of the playing field of us being human beings. Does it matter where you're living? Does it matter where you've been? Yep. To one point it does. And to another point, no, it actually doesn't. If we all can just be human and learn and grow from each other. So I just like a shout out to the men at Sterling. They've done some really deep, beautiful work. And it's not only healing each other, but it's healing a culture that can be pretty violent, dangerous, unsafe, and giving there at least a field of some hope within that environment. I want to be part of something like that.
Yeah, for sure. I hope I get to come back. We have quite a few more programs here that we're going to be doing this year, and I hope I get picked because I love it. I love it here. I love the guys here. And I don't tell everybody that. I believe in folks. I tell them that I'm hoping for them the best and all that stuff. I really do love the guys here. We'll wrap up soon. This is about how long it takes for 45-ish minutes to go by. Doesn't take that long.
It doesn't.
Anything you want to include? We're not limited on time, by the way. I got 40 something hours I could record. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm wrapping it up if you don't want to, but anything from today that I didn't ask about or that you'd like to share or anything like that?
For me, Mike, personally, it was a very wonderful experience. You know, haven't had a chance to really sit back and think about it, being a head type.
Because that's what you do.
Yeah,
because I'll sit back but yeah, I mean, the day it just seemed like another day of Susanne at work, and I just having a chance just to be part of it. So, again, the sharing, the kindness of everybody in the room, and just the environment here at RJD was just spectacularly welcoming and nice. So it was not scary for me. And I maybe in the next experience may be scary, depending on if there's a fight in the yard and all heck, a lockdown and we're all, but that was the farthest thing. And I guess that was my biggest surprise.
Yeah. Was
how there was no drama. There was nothing. But just again, it's back to we're all people. We're doing our work, and we're trying to figure out just what the heck we are.
And you mentioned that. You just reminded me of something that happened last year about maybe it'll be scary. Maybe there'll be a fight or something like that. Last year when we were here, there was a fight, and it wasn't in our room. It wasn't a fight that we saw, but we saw a dude stumble out of one of the units, bleeding. He'd obviously been in a fight. He was kind of stumbling, perhaps a little bit concussed, and I recognized it immediately just because you do when you've seen it. And the guys that were here with us, I was impressed by how scared they weren't. They went immediately to that, oh my God, are you okay? And almost like breaking rules that some things you're not supposed to do, such as offer first aid to an inmate when you're not a staffer. And so I was actually pretty impressed by how that fear wasn't there for a lot of folks. And maybe it would be for somebody else. I don't know. It's not my place to say, but you saying that it was a little flashback.
I will totally admit, and it's probably my naivety of being outside and not being incarcerated before, but just watching Hollywood movies, I'll be dead serious, is that you expect angst when I was walking through the yard, I'd look at groups of people that were mad at each other or looking to get disdain. Well, they weren't looking no disdain to me outside of curiosity. There's some people walking through the yard.
Yeah. Did you get any random hellos from anybody?
Yes. But that's the biggest takeaway is they seem friendly. They were friendly with each other, like they were buddies at college, at school. It could be at a work park near a corporate facility. But there was camaraderie there. Yeah. There were people interacting. Again, it was racial, age, cultural differences. Everyone was interacting, and it's like, wow, that just blew me away. How peaceful this environment was. And I don't know whether that is totally just happened to be that minute, that day, or what my mindset of coming in peace was. But that was really mind blowing for me, is like how beautiful it was of an environment versus tense, looking over your shoulder or feeling like you're under a microscope. So that was my big takeaway of, wow, this is not Hollywood. There are actually people that are in confined, but are really civil and nice to each other. Yeah. So
my favorite phrase in all that is they're actually people, and which is something I think the world tries to undo. And the dehumanization and all that stuff is, after all the bullshit, after all the stuff that folks want to say, think, push, all that stuff. Don't get me wrong, there are some rock and roll yards. There are some places that we couldn't do what we did today. So I'm not pretending that that's not a thing. But by and large, this is the experience that most folks have. And shocker, they're actually people. I love it. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
How about you?
I guess I just want to share that there was just a lot of beautiful things at the end of the day. And one person said, my ultimate epiphany today was to embrace my identity and that I am worthy. Like, oh, how does that not just make you squish your heart up, right? And just say, I hear you. And Clay, you said to the men, I believe in you, and I'm going to hope with you. So having ambassadors in the room from EPP to speak the lived experience, I've been inside and now I'm out, and you too can have this freedom someday, is game changer for our class to have ambassadors inside with us. And just spending the last half hour of the class having you talk to them about what it is to be an ambassador and envisioning what could be, and who knows what can be at RJD. Maybe that will be a training ground for us to have men on the inside become guides or ambassadors on the inside before they're on the outside, and just everything that EPP is growing into and becoming. We're not stagnant, and we are here to stay. So I'm so happy that you got to come in with me today, hon. And I'm glad to be with you again, Clay.
It's always a pleasure. I enjoy the hell out of it, and I hope it's not our last time somewhere. It's pretty fun. Thanks for sitting down. It's getting chillier outside, but I'm not wearing shoes, so maybe the cold ground on my feet is probably. But I
don't have shoes on.
Thank you for sitting down. This is Friday night. You're on vacation. You fly back at what the fuck o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, and
you didn't have to do this. You didn't have to sit and chat with me, and I appreciate it so much. I guarantee you, I speak on behalf of many other people when they hear this who are grateful that you sat down to chat. So thank you, and thank you to Mike. I appreciate it. So the final word, anything about today could be, or tomorrow, or EPP or not EPP, literally anything. Start with you first, Susan, and then Mike.
Final words would be possibility. We are here to stay, and anybody listening, because I think there might be people listening to this, if any of this speaks to your heart, come on in. We are welcoming you. How about you, hon?
I guess my final words would be a plug for the EPP camping trip, and to Dustin and Renee and your team of committee there. That was rock solid last year. And as a spouse of the EPP family, that was so awesome to meet all of you. So please have another.
For more information about EPP, please visit EnneagramPrisonProject.org. We appreciate your time and attention today. Stay tuned for future episodes of the podcast, which you can expect on the first Tuesday of every month as we continue to tell the story of the Enneagram Prison Project.